New at 6, late nights, a swanky hotel, and corporate parties. It was just part of the after-hours politicking done during a conference last month of lawmakers, lobbyists, and big companies.
But as IT-Mate's Bennett Haberly reports, something else came out of that private gathering. Good evening, Bennett.
Brooke, Dave, we found a small amount of public money. Lawmakers attending a private event are asking to be reimbursed for traveling there. That raises more questions about a nonprofit group critics say is responsible for crafting public laws in private. Summertime means the Indiana State House is usually empty. No one in the House, no one in the Senate, no votes being cast. But a block away at the JW Marriott Luxury Hotel, we found lawmakers were voting behind closed doors alongside lobbyists and other private sector members attending the American Legislative Exchange Council's annual conference.
Thank you.
What were they voting on? So-called model policies, ready-made bills with blanks so that lawmakers only need to insert their respective states. Reporters were banned from covering those meetings. Why keep those private? Why not let them open to the public?
Well, the reality is that people want to have free and open debate and discussion, and sometimes they require privacy for that. Now, the reality is...
But aren't they public laws being made in private?
They're not public laws. They're discussions of model policies.
That, in turn, potentially could become law.
Potentially pieces of them or notions of them could become law.
We found this ALEC resolution calling for local monitoring of coal emissions was copied word for word into a resolution introduced in the Indiana State House. And this ALEC bill repealing a common construction wage became part of Indiana law last year.
It's a great experience. I get to learn what's working in other states.
I think about 1 out of 4 state legislators are members of the American Legislative Exchange Council. This is a place where you can exchange ideas of what they're doing in different states and how they're approaching things, and I think it's a good exchange of ideas.
Last month's conference drew hundreds, including big-name politicians.
I was for ALEC before it was cool.
Like Indiana Governor and Vice Presidential candidate Mike Pence. But protesters argue ALEC is more about buying influence, giving big-name corporations and their lobbyists exclusive access to lawmakers, who then work together to hammer out these potential laws.
I reject the notion that there's some sort of untoward activity going on here. Legislators control the entire process.
Remember that meeting on tax policy we weren't allowed inside? Well, the two speakers included a New Hampshire lawmaker whose nameplate was next to the lobbyist for the alcohol and tobacco industries. 2 nights earlier, we saw ALEC attendees returning from a private cigar party. And that same week, there was also a private meet and greet sponsored by Duke Energy. What about sort of the after-hours stuff, the fraternization? Do you feel like that might be a concern to some folks at home?
Not really. I mean, we just have receptions and...
You don't think it greases the wheels to vote on certain bills?
No. I do what's best for my constituents.
You know, this should be a transparent process.
Julia Vaughn with Common Cause Indiana says when companies use ALEC, it provides them a cloak of secrecy.
When they're whining and dining, taking them golfing out at expensive resorts, we should know about that. And we do if they're doing it under their corporate role. But when they're doing it as a member of ALEC, they get to hide behind a curtain.
Indiana law requires that lobbyists register with the state in an effort to keep closer tabs on how they spend their money, but not ALEC. Indiana lawmakers exempted the group from that law.
They're a lobbying organization masquerading as a charity.
To try to say that this is all secret is misleading, to say the least.
State Senator Jim Buck, an ALEC vice chair, rejects the criticism, telling us during a recent interview that private donations help lawmakers cover the cost of attending. In an emailed statement, Duke Energy said that we are not ordinarily a sponsor of ALEC, but decided to take part because the conference was held in Indiana. It goes on to say, we don't typically share sponsorship costs. Any expenses, however, related to hosting state legislators separate from the sponsorship will be part of our regular lobby report.
So without scholarships, they couldn't even participate.
But do those scholarships, you think, have an influence on what decisions they make when it comes to the law and if it helps those who were supporting them?
It influences them in this way. They're wiser and smarter on a holistic basis.
But iTeammate found it's not all private money. Some public tax money is involved. So far, 4 lawmakers have sought mileage reimbursements for attending the private ALEC conference.
Should taxpayer dollars be involved in a private group then?
It's like any other meeting we go to. We've been doing it for decades.
Doing it for decades. It's roughly $500 worth of free gas for driving to a private event. We noticed license plates from other states, and we reached out to several states. Illinois and Kentucky got back to us. They said none of their lawmakers sought financial reimbursements for attending the private ALEC meeting. In fact, in Illinois, it's illegal for lawmakers there to do so. They can only seek reimbursements if they're driving to the Capitol during a session of the General Assembly. Bennett Haberly, 24-hour News 8.